It's not selfish to take care of yourself, because if you don't put yourself first, you're not going to be able to put others first. My mom never took time for herself because she thought it was too selfish to take time for herself, to take care of her mental health. She probably didn't even know that she was having issues. And so the older I got, the more I got into therapy, I kept telling her, Mom, it's not selfish. I started learning what love was for myself. I never felt that. I felt like I was always looking outward. And as soon as I started learning to look inward, that's when it changed for me.
When we met, I was like, yes, another brown girl that is talking about mental health. So I want to start there. How did your journey of your own self-love come about for you to actually be talking about, not being so selfish?
Yeah, I started I want to say 7 years ago. It's about to be 8. It's crazy. On social media, I was sharing my fitness journey because I had been going through a lot of depression, breakup, and I gained a lot of weight. And then I was like, you know what? I want to start sharing my fitness journey. And I was getting really into the gym and just sharing that part of my weight loss journey that turned into self-love, learning how to love myself through the weight gain, the weight loss, the entire process. And then 7 years later, I'm here talking about self-love, talking about mental health and how important it is to take care of yourself. And then the podcast started last year. So that's how I started, to sum it up.
Oh my goodness. And was there anything ever in your mind where you were kind of like, should I be sharing this? Should I not be sharing this? What am I going through? Take me through what was going on in your mental health at the time for you to actually pull the trigger and take the leap.
Well, yeah. Oh my God. Especially in brown culture, you're like, should I even say this? So many people are going to reach out and they're going to give me negative feedback. And then I was also in therapy. So my therapist really helped me talk myself down and tell myself, at the end of the day, this is helping you, and you have to think of at least one person that it might help. And if I don't talk about this, I'm holding myself back and someone else who is probably looking for that strength and courage to talk about it and to take the step forward to take care of their mental health, because I know how lonely that journey was for me. And so I just said, you know what, screw it, let's do it. And I just started sharing everything, whatever came to my mind, unfiltered. I got a lot of feedback, negative, but I didn't really care.
Take us through. What were some of the things that people said in the beginning?
Oh, at first, some people were slut shaming me, which was so weird because I was sharing my fitness journey, how my body was changing. And then they were telling me that I'm doing too much, that I need to filter myself, that I'm making my parents look bad or myself look bad.
You're making your parents look bad.
Yeah. Society, I have to care about what everyone thinks. And from the beginning, I've always been a kind of, I don't really care what anyone thinks, but I needed a push to not care about what anyone thinks, because I said it here, but I didn't believe it in my heart.
And from these people who were the naysayers or the ones that were putting you down, did they know you? Did they have a personal relationship with you? Where did some of these comments come from?
That's the funny part. It's always people who know you. It's never someone who doesn't really know you. It's always people you think that have the best interests for you, but they're like, nope. It was people that I knew, family, friends, and now it's all changed, because it's oh wow, look at you now. But it's always people you know.
I can totally relate 1,000%. I remember being so open about just, I think, wanting to close a chapter. This was after my divorce, and wanting to close a chapter in medicine. I wanted to sell my dental practice that I worked so hard building. And I'm I'm getting this itch. I'm getting this call. I'm getting this the fever to kind of want to do something else. And I was starting to do different projects. But then when I actually made the thought in my head, I'm okay, 6 months from now, I'm going to be this will be sold and I'm going to be done with dentistry. And so I started to mouth it into reality. And that's when the comments started coming in and the naysayers and
like, how could you do this?
Right. You went to school for how long? And like,
and you're just going to shut it down.
Yeah. You're going to like, what are you still paying those loans off? Like, it's just like all of these things. And you're kind of like, and so in that space of kind of what I like to call the messy middle, where you're in transition, and it sounded like you were kind of in transition for those years. Yeah. What do you say for people right now who are kind of struggling, who maybe want to share part of themselves like they see you doing, but then they have the naysayers like that come out and start attacking them in the beginning?
Well, one, you have to remember that everyone's attack is a projection of their own insecurities. It's not about you. They're afraid to step out of the box because it makes them feel uncomfortable. So if it makes you feel uncomfortable, go for it. Don't put yourself in this little box that people want you to be a certain way, to do something. Because I did that for a really long time, and it was just...
What did your parents want you to be?
They wanted me to be a lawyer, accountant, or doctor. Literally none of those things happened. I went to school and got a degree in political science to become a lawyer. And then on that path, I was like, oh, I don't like this. I just didn't like who I was becoming. I just didn't feel my real self. And so to the people who feel this way, you just got to go for what you believe in. And find the people that support you through it and remove yourself from the naysayers. And if they do keep talking, you just have to ignore it. You have to learn to let it go and have to keep talking to yourself and telling yourself that it's about them, not about you.
Now, take us back a little bit into like your background growing up. What was kind of some of the expectations of you? Were you the oldest? Were you the youngest? Were you the only child? How was that relationship with your parents?
Ooh, so I have an interesting little background. My older sister is blind, and so I was the youngest, but also the oldest, if that makes sense. She's 4 years older than me. As soon as I was born, I had this role that was given to me to take care of her. It was, I love my parents. They did the best they could. I understand like that situation, especially 30 years ago, was so difficult. They didn't have the resources, the money to take care of both of us at the same time in the way that they needed to. And so a lot of it fell onto me to take care of my sister. And so I played a role of being older when I was so young, and I wanted to be free, but I also like had this not burden, but oh my God, I have my older sister. She's blind. I have to take care of her. I have to do things for her. I have to take her places. And so that relationship was really difficult. And I still struggle with it sometimes.
How did it affect your relationship growing up?
With my sister or my parents?
Both.
A lot of resentment. I was so angry. I was so anxious. I think my anxiety started at 11 years old. Anxiety and depression, which I've learned now that I'm older, like, oh my God, that started at such a young age.
And how did it like come about? How did you know, or what did you feel for, in your body, or just how did you know that this wasn't right?
I was so sad all the time. I was so sad. I was so angry. And I was like, no child. Well, now that I'm older, because at that time I didn't know what was happening, but I was like, no child should feel like this at like 10 years old, 11 years old. And I see my little cousins, I'm like, oh, you guys are living. But I understand it was a very difficult situation, and everyone in that situation did the best they could, but I think I got the short end of the stick.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, not speaking for your sister, but how was that relationship as you guys got older?
In the beginning, obviously, it was a lot of anger, a lot of resentment. Now I'm slowly getting over that. Our relationship is still, it's different. It's, I don't think people understand when having a sibling who is visually impaired, they don't see the reality of life. They see they're in a bubble. And I think that's amazing. And she's happy. But she doesn't, we can't have like real deep conversations. So it's still like not motherly, but it's like different. It's just so hard to explain that relationship. And as we get older, I'm becoming more patient, more compassion, and giving her more grace, giving myself more grace, and just helping her be better and helping myself be better.
Yeah, I can't imagine being 10 years old and having that responsibility of taking care of an older sibling.
Yeah, and she's blind since I was born. So
wow.
It started very young.
Wow. And how is your parents' relationship now with both of you?
She's the baby of the family, which I understand. Like, they're going to keep her nested forever. But I think when I left my house, I left around 25 years old. That's when my relationship started getting better with them. I started learning how to hold boundaries. I started talking to them better. I feel like we have better conversations now, and we all hold space for each other. I mean, I can see the habits that we fall into when we're with our parents and when we've been with them for so long. And I just have to pull myself back and see myself on the outside and be like, okay, let's take a deep breath. They're just projecting, or like, you're projecting. And I feel our relationship definitely progressed since I was young.
And so this whole journey of you kind of taking yourself and taking everyone else through your fitness journey, did you know that it was going to become like a mental health platform for you?
Not at all. I thought, let's just share my fitness. Maybe I'll become a fitness influencer. And I was like, it didn't really feel right. I just felt like, okay, what's the point of just doing weight loss when it's not really connecting me? Like, our body is so beautiful. It has so many changes. And then also at the same time I started that, I started therapy. So I was 22 years old. I started therapy. I started this blog. And then with therapy, I started learning what love was for myself. I never felt that. I felt like I was always looking outward. And as soon as I started learning to look inward, that's when it changed for me and for the platform.
And what was some of the responses of people? Because I can only imagine being able to first share your journey of a breakup online and then going through fitness, but then letting people really into your life when people looking like us, I mean, usually we shove things under a rug.
Yeah.
Usually we kind of pretend like everything's okay, or at least
we're taught that, right?
We're taught to just be stoic and smile and yep, everything's great, and then move on. How were you breaking that?
Everyone was so supportive. When, like, even some family members, like, now they talk to me about what they went through, like their depression, their anxiety. I was like, what? They're like, you have opened up the floor for all of us, especially in our family, the younger kids. They say how they feel. They are so much more in tune with themselves. And I'm just like, that's the whole point. It doesn't matter as long as I'm helping people talk about their feelings, talk about that everything doesn't have to always be okay. And it was a lot of good support, and I think that's what just kept making me want to do more and more.
Do you think we've actually changed a tide with the way things are going with kind of embracing our feelings and sharing more? Or do you think we're just like in a little bubble for all Brave Table fam who keeps listening and even on your podcast?
I think, yes, we have changed it. So many people.
How so?
I feel like people are more open online too. I mean, from when I first started social media to now, I see people being more raw, talking about their depression, talking about postpartum, talking about anxiety, and they're more accepting of it. And I don't know, every time I meet someone, like you and I just met last week, and we just immediately were talking, got into it. And I think just those kind of conversations, people wouldn't have those in public anymore. I mean, before.
You're so right. Like, I feel like even when I was growing up, or even just like, super recently, as of like 5 years ago, I remember kind of going to like a mom's group, and it was so new. Like I just had my son, and I was going through it. Like I was in it. I did not know what postpartum meant or was.
Yeah.
I mean, you read all about it, right? You read all about it. You do all of the things. And we tried to have like a very supernatural birth in all of the ways and got all the people involved and everything. And it just didn't happen in that way. And so there was a lot of grieving around it. But I know my psyche also kind of snapped and shifted. But I didn't even have the words to describe what it was that I was going through. And I remember going to this like mom's group one day, and it was like all of the, community moms. And I mean, everyone was like, oh my gosh, isn't it so great to be a mom? And like, you have this like, and I was like, wait, are we going to talk about like the sucky things too?
Yeah.
Are we going to talk about the fact that like, are you guys sleeping? Oh yeah. It's so great. Like he sleeps 24 hours. It was like ridiculous stuff. I'm like, am I just having this like solo experience? And I'm like, well, and how are things with you and your partner?
Yeah.
Oh my God, the best it ever has been. And it's only now that like I feel that, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I wrote a book it's called That Sucked, Now What? Because it was literally chronicling that time, and also, with a podcast. But I think that now we've very much normalized it, or at least, there's
We're starting to, at least.
And even I feel like your generation, and even, the younger kids who are just kind of getting out of college now, they are full in their emo. Mm-hmm. Whereas my bua, she's like my bonus mom, she still says, why do you tell everything to everybody on your social? Yeah. I don't know if you get that.
Oh yeah, I do all the time. My dad's like, you shouldn't have said that. I was like, why? What if someone else, the fact that you say you shouldn't have said that, I should have said that because someone else is feeling that. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Someone's going through the same thing or something similar. You never know. I get it all the time.
And so do you still come across like communities where, or, events or things like that, where you feel there is like a block, or somebody is not being as vulnerable, truthful,
oh my
honest?
God, all the time. I feel like people are still so scared, and that's something they have to work through. I think they're scared to show what really is going on because they're afraid of judgment, when at the end of the day, we're only judging ourselves. Honestly, no one really cares what anyone is doing, right? So for sure, especially in my family, at least everyone's being more open. But like if we go to like an outside event in the community, you can totally tell like this person is feeling something, but they're playing it off like everything is okay. And that's fine too. Sometimes I feel like we do that. But I think it's just a reminder that it is okay to feel. It is okay to show, because you're not the only one. And honestly, funny that you say that, because lately I've been getting a lot of messages from the community and the women in my community. My mom has been getting these messages, and they have this little group chat, these older women all with kids, and they're like, Karishma's doing so great. We've been feeling this for so many years, but we never knew how to say it. And those kind of things make me happy, because I just want the brown women in our community and men to just be open about what they're going through.
Yeah, I think it's a full rise up, because I think with our parents, right, or like children of immigrants, they came here to have the better life. They were the ones that struggled, and they really paved the way for us to kind of not really have much of that struggle. Yeah. And so we're kind of like, in many ways, this like privileged, entitled generation that we could actually focus on our feelings instead of focusing on survival.
I agree.
But yet you still go to those events, those networking events, those, whatever communities, those circles. And Brave Table Fam, I know you've been to them too, where maybe you just feel like you are the only person that can see that you're asking, well, how's this person doing? You could read it and you could see it and you could feel that energy. Yep. You're like, they are not telling the truth.
Yeah. And and that's on them. We can't do anything, right? You can try to open the space up and help them get to their truth. But if they don't want to see it, then what can you do?
And so this brings me to kind of the segue here, what you talk about so much on your podcast. So please tell us about your podcast.
Well, my podcast is called It's Not Selfish because the title is because my mom, shout out to my mom. This is why the title started. But she had to take care of me, my sister who was visually impaired, my grandparents, and my dad. And we all lived in one house. One woman waking up every day, cooking 3 times a day for 6 people. I was of no help. Like, I was young and resentful and I didn't want to do anything. But she was just doing it. Never took time for herself because she thought it was too selfish to take time for herself, to take care of her mental health. She probably didn't even know that she was having issues. And so the older I got, the more I got into therapy, I kept telling her, Mom, it's not selfish. Like, go do it. You want to go get a facial done? Go. You want to go get your nails done? Go. No one's going to tell you anything. And if anyone does, I'm here. Go, because it's not selfish to take care of you. And so that's why the podcast started, that it's not selfish to take care of yourself, because if you don't put yourself first, you're not going to be able to put others first. And so that journey started into that, and now it's about mental health, about taking care of yourself, and more deeper conversations that I wish I had when I was a young girl looking up to an older big sister. So it's me.
It's you. Yes. Yeah. And I love that the podcast kind of stemmed from, you know, the relationship with your mom, because I think a lot of times we see the matriarchs in our family. Mm-hmm. We see the matriarchs who have sacrificed a lot for themselves, and then they judge themselves. Mm-hmm. And so what do you think are kind of the telltale signs that you are harboring like specific emotions where you kind of need like a self-care day or a self-love day?
Me personally?
Yeah, you, or like even, you know, even if you were kind of going to see it in your mom, but like, what is it that you see where it's kind of like, okay, these are the red flag signs? I feel like you already shared one, which is like the resentment.
Yeah. Resentment, and also like just getting irritated, very irritable. If you're very irritable and it just seems like you need some time, like, hey, go take a deep breath, go sit down. I tell myself that too. And also just more fighty, like I'm just like sassy and fighting more, and
like attitude-y.
Yeah, nitpicking. And
yes,
that means, okay, it's time, and just feeling overwhelmed and exhausted because I know my cup isn't filled.
Right. And by the way, if you notice that any of your family members are short, snippy, you know, attitude-y, yelling for no reason, or just picking a fight for no reason, you probably know that they're dysregulated. Mm-hmm. Their nervous system is like overreactive, or they're probably watching too much news, because
what you take in is a lot. It affects your nervous system and mental health so much.
Yeah. And I feel like lately, you know, around the time where we're recording this, there's a lot going on in the world.
There is.
And I feel like, you know, on the one hand, you feel like you need to know
and keep up,
and you want to keep up because there is that. And also I feel like there has to be a space for your mental health, because I even felt like, oh my gosh, I'm doing all of those things right now. Like I'm feeling snappy, short, I'm getting angry at everybody. And it's like what we're consuming.
Yeah. What you consume really affects your mental health. And I think people forget that part. Mm-hmm. And that's why unfollow people that make you feel like crap on social media. Also, it's okay to take a break from news. I know there's a lot going on. We have to keep up with it. Where we feel like we have to keep up with it. But it is also okay to take a day, regroup, take care of your mental health, and then come back to it.
Yeah. No, I feel like that's great advice for, I feel like, a lot of people right now.
Especially because it's all over social media, and that's all we consume these days.
All we consume.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, because I know our time is short, I wanted to get into
Damn, that was fast.
our ignition round.
Okay. Ignition. I'm nervous now.
Okay. Well, you can take these in your hand. So these are our Brave Table Conversation cards. So you can pull a couple out, and these are going to be rapid fire questions.
Okay, random.
Yeah, random.
Just a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And while you have those in your hand, I'm going to start with the first one.
Okay.
What does it mean to be brave in this stage of life?
Oh, to be yourself.
And
authentically.
Oh, I love that. But what are you particularly braving right now?
Ooh, at this moment. That's a really good one. You're putting me on the spot here. Right now it's really being in tune with my thoughts and knowing that it's going to be okay. And I know it's hard, but I have to brave through it. See what I did there?
I love it. Okay.
What's something in your life that's challenging you right now? And how are you walking through it? Oh my God. I think I have to think about this because there's a few things that are challenging me right now. And right now it's probably my own imposter syndrome. And I'm just giving myself grace and letting myself know that it's okay. It happens. Reminding myself who I am, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and just sticking with that.
Do you have a certain practice that, if you're feeling kind of these critical thoughts of yourself or imposter syndrome, what do you do to kind of snap yourself out of it?
Gratitude. Practice ground myself into my present, and then basically tell myself what a badass person I am.
Yes, you are, Karishma. Yes, you are. It's great. Okay, next.
Your upbringing. What was your favorite activity as a child? Why did you love it? And who did you do it with? Okay, this is a little corny. My grandpa was my best friend. He passed away a few years ago, sadly, but he lived till 95.
95.
Yeah, he's the freaking best person ever. A lot of my beliefs come from him, and who I am is because of him. We used to go every Friday to Taco Bell next door.
Shout out to Taco Bell. Brown people and Taco Bell.
Yes. And
wait, fire sauce, hot sauce?
Fire and hot.
Okay.
So it depends on the mood.
Okay.
But at that time, Taco Bell, the burritos were 49 cents. So you already know. So my grandpa would take us, me and my sister, and every Friday we'd go to Taco Bell and have burritos together.
What would you have?
I would have a bean and cheese burrito.
Okay. Bean and cheese, no meat.
Yeah. Bean and cheese, no meat.
Yeah. Staple growing up. Shout out Lane Tech.
And, at that time we'd have a lot of money. So that was like our going out to eat. And it was with my grandpa, and we just would eat and just vibe together.
That's so sweet.
Me, my sister, and my grandpa.
How many tacos would he throw down?
He'd only eat his bean and cheese burrito with jalapenos.
Oh, jalapenos.
Yeah.
Of course, can't.
He was a spicy man.
Yeah, spice.
That was my favorite thing we did growing up. I love that man. Do I go to the next one?
Yeah, that'll be the final one.
What is one meal your caretakers made that you wish you knew how to make? Oh my God, khichdi.
Oh yes. Oh, you don't know how to make khichdi?
I don't know how to make like the vegetable khichdi. Like my mom there's something she puts in there.
Okay.
And it's just so much better when she does it. I know how to make a little bit, but it's not like hers.
Ooh, you gotta come over. Well, we can do a khichdi cook-off.
Stop.
I'll have mom.
My husband's the cook, so I'll let him do it.
Done.
And I'll just do the taste testing.
Okay. That'll work.
Khichdi for sure.
I'd have to say I make a mean khichdi. I do have a secret ingredient. I'm not going to reveal it here. But yeah, so maybe we'll.
Don't tell me that. I will show up to your house tomorrow.
Let's go. Let's go. See, this is the brown competition of the khichdi kitchen cook-off. Karishma, this was so amazing having you on. I think we can go even deeper.
I think so too.
And more for I think a part 2 is looming and blooming. I'd like to close this with, first and foremost, how can we get a hold of more Karishma and follow your journey and listen to your podcast? Obviously, tell us all of the things.
Well, you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok at kp.fitstyle and at It's Not Selfish Podcasts. And you can find It's Not Selfish on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and that's it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, and one word that describes this season of life.
Gratitude.
Well, I have so much gratitude that we were able to drop in and really connect after just one meeting.
Yeah.
I saw you and I was like, oh my gosh.
There's something there.
There was.
There's still some more to come.
There's more to come.
I'm so grateful that you had me here.
Oh, such a pleasure, love.
Thank you.
Until next time on the Brave Table.